Hey, what's up, guys? LaRosa Johnson here, and want to welcome you back to Trailblazin Tech and our series on automation made easy. So we're just going to jump right into it and give you a recap and get to where we're going. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's get into it. All right, so like I said, we are here for automation made easy for entrepreneurs, and this is part 4 or 5. So we are almost done. We are more than halfway through. So here's where we've been, here's where we're going. This is our plan of action. So when we first started this thing, we were looking at what is automation. So we were defining our terms and helping you understand why automation can be such a valuable tool in your business. And then from there, I introduced the Pi automation flywheel framework to you. And that's the core framework that I use for building out all of my automations and what you can use as the framework for building automations in your business. And then we've been looking at how to begin implementing the Pi framework. So last time we looked at identifying what to automate. So like we said, before you can even automate anything, you need to know what you can automate. And so that's what we took a look at there, is looking at all the steps that you can use to figure that out. Today, we're looking at the tools for automation. So what tools do you need to make those automations happen? And then next time, we're going to be taking a look at building the automation strategy. So putting it all together, looking at those 2 final pieces of the Pi automation flywheel and how those are integrated as well into all of this. So again, this is the Pi flywheel framework. It's 3 steps. So step 1 is planning. And so planning is all of the stuff of figuring out what you're doing, how to do it, and like mapping out the entire thing. And then step 2 is implementation, actually building and putting the automation into use. And then step 3, the step that most people forget because most people want to set it and forget it. Instead, we want to set it and optimize it. And that's what the evaluation stage is all about, is looking at your automation, your metrics, and figuring out, all right, can we optimize this? Can we improve it? And if there's no improvements necessary, we let it keep running. If we can't improve it, then we're going back to step 1 and doing the process all over again. So these are the steps in step 1, the planning phase. So the first thing is you need to decide what to automate. You need to pick your metrics to track success and failure. Then you need to map out your automation, and those 3 things we looked at in our last video. And then today, the final step of the planning stage is planning the requirements and the tools that you're going to need to build your automation. So that's what we're taking a look at today. So when it comes down to choosing your tools, once you've mapped out like what your automation is going to look like, which we did a sample like automation mapping out of a simple onboarding process, and we're going to take a look at that again here in a little bit. But once you've got everything mapped out, you are ready for this final stage, which is the final stage of the planning stage, which is selecting your tools. So this is figuring out what kind of automation tools are available to you to make this thing happen. And there are 3 types of automation tools that you can take a look at. And it's going to start with 1, your existing tools. What are the automations and capabilities in apps that you already own? So before we go out and just try to look at other tools and other things that you can buy, just look at the tools that you already have and see what tools and features are available to you to begin automating and making your work easier from what's already built in and what you have at your fingertips. And then from there, we're looking at using scripts and apps locally on your devices. So using your phone, your computer, your tablet, and doing automations on there to make your job easier. And then finally, we're looking at cloud solutions. So automations that can run on the internet 24/7 and connect to other tools and services on the internet. So to start, we're looking at the apps that you already own. So to do this, you need to survey your apps and just see what features are there. Like, what are features that are there that you can turn on or leverage to automate tasks and save you time? And so one of the things that I mentioned early on in this automation, I believe it was in like our very first lesson, was you don't need to overcomplicate automation because it can be something very simple. And the example that I give here is something that's really simple. So the example that I give here of like surveying the features that you already have available to you is creating rules and filters in Gmail to just automatically sort your email. So all the emails that come in, they're automatically getting sorted based on who's sending it, the subject line, the subject matter, all that kind of stuff. It's already getting sorted so that you already know these are the things that are priority, these are the things that aren't, and those that I can ignore, but these are the things that I have to deal with right now. So it's just simple stuff like that. And then it's a matter of asking yourself, what are the upgrades, add-ons, or plugins that you can add to your existing software that can add automation or make your work easier? And so this is just one of those things where you look at the tools that you're already using and figuring out what can you do to improve your workflow with them to make your life a little bit easier. So it might mean finding a feature that's already there or upgrading to a higher, a more advanced version of that software to unlock certain capabilities that will make your job easier. Or maybe it's more of an open platform where you can purchase or install different plugins that will allow you to do various things, like with Gmail, where you can install various plugins to do different things. So that's the first area, is looking at the tools that you already own. The second area is local automation. So there's lots of automation that you can run locally on your computer, your phone, and your tablet that can help you automate your work. And this is one of the things that I actually enjoy most. And the example that I give here is the Apple Shortcuts app. And this app will allow you to automate so many different actions on your phone and on your computer and your tablet based on various contexts and situations. And it's not always like necessarily automated, but there are other things that you can do where it's like at the push of a button, it will run this entire complex workflow for me. So there are things that can be automated, and then there's things that you can just run at the push of a button using Apple Shortcuts. And if I were to pull up my Apple Shortcuts right now, you would see like hundreds of automations that I built over the last few years that allow me to do various things. Like one of the things that I did when I was regularly working in my fitness business, I would do a workout of the week video. I had a shortcut where push of a button, it would fill out an entire checklist for me and build it in the Reminders app so that I knew step by step of what I needed to do to get that video recorded and published and then published on my blog. Step by step, every single check that I needed to do. And push of a button, it automated all that for me. And then there are other automations, like right now where I'm live streaming. I have it set so that as soon as I open a certain app on my phone, it turns on do not disturb mode. It puts my phone in airplane mode, make sure that no sounds are coming through. So that way my phone can focus on being my camera instead of being a phone in that particular moment. So lots of different automations that you can set up. And there are tons of different tools and videos that you can find online to help you learn how to set up these kinds of automations. And some that we'll probably get into at some point here on this channel as well. And then if you're an Android person, there is an app called Tasker. Tasker is an app I used extensively when I was an Android user to build custom automations, and it's a really powerful tool. And then finally, we're looking at cloud automation. So the advantage of using cloud automation is that it's going to run 24/7. It runs independent of any of your devices, and it can also connect to various services. So if you're using an automation tool online, it can connect to like your email, your CRM, and any other tool that you can think about. And really, this is probably the best way to take advantage of automation when you're thinking about setting up automation in your business. And there are so many options to choose from, including, and this list is by no means exhaustive, but Zapier is probably the most popular one, the one that people know about the most. But before Zapier, there was IFTTT, which stands for if this, then that, which is really the main way that we are thinking about automations. Like, if this thing happens, then do this. That's the whole point of if this, then that. Like, really simple automations. And then Zapier took that and took it to the next level and ran with it and exploded it, connected all the things. And so then there's other ones like Pabbly, Make, Sure Triggers, which is one that I actually use regularly when I don't have to use Zapier, because it's one of those ones I have a lifetime license to. But there are lots of different ways that you can approach this. And Zapier is one that I would definitely recommend looking into if you are considering like automating in this kind of way using cloud computing, because it works really well. It's probably the biggest out there and connects with the most wide range of tools that are available. So let's get back to our onboarding example that we did the other day. Let me pull up the drawing that I did, and we're going to just talk through how I would set up and choose the tools for this automation. So just by way of reminder, we're looking at a simple onboarding flow with the need of this flow being automating the onboarding and then saving time and impressing our clients. That's what we are trying to accomplish with this onboarding workflow. And it all starts with us taking the client's payment. So that is the first step. So when it comes to the first step of payment, what are we going to use here? And for this, I'll use the context of, we'll use Zapier for this, since that's probably the most popular one. Like, I'll probably build this out in like high level. It's the tool that I use, and it allows you to do some automation, but we'll use Zapier for this one. So for the payment, we're going to take our payment in Stripe. So actually, let me make sure I've got the correct color tools on here. Here we go. So we're going to do this with Stripe. And then for our welcome email, we want to then have this come from our email marketing list. So this would be, let's say we want this to be ConvertKit. So any emails that we send are coming from ConvertKit. And then our contracts are going to come from PandaDoc or DocuSign. And then we're going to give access to our personal training software. So let's say PT Distinction. And then we have our next steps email, which is also ConvertKit. And then our weekly emails, which are going to be a sequence of emails that we also have set up in ConvertKit. And then our onboarding is finished from there, so there's like nothing that needs to be connected here. So then what we would do is figure out, okay, what do we need to do to connect all these things to happen? So we're taking our payment in Stripe. We know that we want our emails. So our welcome email, our next steps email, and then our weekly email series all to come from ConvertKit. So we've already set up all this stuff there. So we have a sequence set up in ConvertKit for our welcome email. We have another one set up for the next steps. And then we also have another sequence set up for our weekly email. So like, let's say we have a 12-week program. So we've got 12 emails set up, ready to go, set to send every single week, like on a Sunday or a Monday. So we've got all that set up. And we've got Stripe set up to take the payment. We've got our contract already set up in PandaDoc. And then we already have our program set up in PT Distinction. So the question is, how do we set all this up to connect to one another? So if we were to do that, we would use, this is where we would use Zapier. So what we would do in Zapier is, so if we go to a new page here, so we have Zapier. So we would say our payment is made in Stripe, and then Stripe is going to trigger Zapier. So Zapier is going to be looking for this for like every new payment that's made in Stripe. Zapier is looking for those, and then it's looking for a particular type of payment. So we're saying if someone buys our personal training package, so buys PT package, and then it goes to Zapier. And then Zapier then starts kicking off all these extra steps. So then Zapier tells ConvertKit to send our welcome email. And then once that welcome email has been sent, Zapier then tells that PandaDoc to do its next step. So then we come over here, we'll come back up here to PandaDoc to send our contract. And then these are all different actions that you would set up in Zapier. So like just one after the other. And then our next step would be in Zapier would be to wait for the contract to be signed. So we would probably stop things right here. So like this is the end of step 1 of onboarding, because there's no other action that we're waiting for to happen here. But then, split this in half, we get to the second part. So we're waiting for the contract to be signed. So we know that that should kick off the second part of our automation because we want nothing else to happen until then. So we have this one Zap that we have set up, which is our payment, which then sends the welcome email, sends the contract. That's all that the first part does. So then we have our next trigger. So this is a new Zap in Zapier. So this is contract signed. And then this kicks off something new in Zapier. So this would be another task that we have set up. And then so from there, what we want to do is our personal training software. So with PT Distinction, because I already know how PT Distinction is set up, the first thing we want to do is, so PTD, create new user. And this would all be done in Zapier. So Zapier is looking for the contract to be signed. And then the next thing that it does is creates the new user in PT Distinction. And then once the new user is created, we then send another action to PTD. So PTD assign our package. So once we know that the user is created, we're sending them the package, and then we send them the next steps email. So we'll come back up here to the top. So next steps in ConvertKit. And then once that is set, we are then adding them to the next part, which is going to be our weekly email series. So then we have weekly emails and done. So like you can see here, this would be a 2-step or like 2-part workflow in Zapier just to make this work. And we could have some things like that have it wait for the contract to be signed and then like have just one really big workflow in Zapier. But like I said in the beginning, you really want to simplify things as much as possible. And so this is really the simplest way to do it, to where you have all your actions here in the first part that need to happen. But then you have something else that's just waiting for something else to happen. So if you're waiting for something else to happen that you know is going to kick off the rest of it, then you want to then move it into its own thing, just for the sake of simplicity. So this is like just a really simple workflow that you would set up in Zapier, and it'd just be like one thing after the other, like very similar to how you have it set up here. This is how it would be set up in Zapier. You just pick, like it would start with Stripe. Then the next thing that you would do is select ConvertKit, tell it to do what you want in ConvertKit. And the nice thing about this is you can pass details from all of these things to other things. So with the payment that's happening in Stripe, without getting too complex, because I'll explain this all in future videos for like setting up stuff, but all the payment details that are coming through, like the person's email, their name, and all that stuff is coming through with Stripe along with their payment info. And so that's how you're getting your email to send it to ConvertKit and their name, as well as the name and email to send it to PandaDoc. And then, of course, all that information is going to be there with the contract as well, which you can then use to create the new user and to assign the package and then add them to the other steps in ConvertKit. So that's a really basic way to look at setting up your workflows in ConvertKit. And I think it works really well in terms of like really just showing you like how you can pick your tools. And then once you have it all mapped out, you can then say, all right, this is what I want this to do. This is what I want this to do. This is what I want that to do. And then once it's all mapped out, all that's left is really just to go and build it. But you can see like I just wrote all that down. And then once I have it all written down, then it's just a matter of going to Zapier and doing those exact steps in Zapier. So it makes it really easy to follow once you have it all mapped out. And that's the importance of mapping it out the way that I do. And then because once it's mapped out, it makes it really easy to choose your tools. And then once you've chosen your tools, then you can decide, all right, these are the actions and flows that are required to make this happen. So just to recap again, this is where we are, this is where we've been, and this is where we're going. So we've defined what automation is, we've defined the PI framework, we've identified what to automate, we've defined the tools for automation and how to do it. And then finally, tomorrow, in our next video, we're going to be looking at the final two stages, which are implementation and evaluation, and showing how those help you build a comprehensive and repeatable strategy for growth and freedom in your business using automation. So that's all I have for now, and I will see you guys in the next video.